Hello and welcome to Picture This, a podcast from the photo archives of the Albuquerque Museum. My name is Jill Hartke, and I am the Digital Archivist here at the museum. Today we will be hopping on board an electric streetcar and taking a ride to learn about one of Albuquerque's early transportation systems. In the photo archives of the Albuquerque Museum is a photograph of a female streetcar driver known as a motorette, standing in front of her streetcar. Here's the story behind the photograph. The first electric streetcar system in Albuquerque launched in 1904, and it replaced a horse-drawn street railroad that connected the railroad depot in Newtown to the plaza in Old Town. The 20th century had dawned, and it demanded an updated transportation system. Albuquerque Traction Company had several investors from California who had experience in streetcar systems and had seen the impact streetcars had on helping a city to expand. They laid the streetcar tracks and purchased 6 streetcars. It was a popular mode of transit. For the year of 1907, the company reported carrying over 800,000 passengers. The system grew, and by 1914 served Albuquerque, Old Town, Motorettes, and the Heights, which at that time was along Edith Boulevard, and it was moving eastward to the university near Yale Avenue. The streetcar investors from California were right. The streetcar system did help to expand the city of Albuquerque. It allowed suburbanization, as people were able to live further from the commercial center, and they moved into neighborhoods where the streetcars allowed easy transportation to work, to school, or to shop. But this expansion also created larger problems for the streetcar system. Automobiles gained popularity, and ordinances were passed which forced higher licensing fees on the streetcars. The Albuquerque Traction Company became delinquent on its taxes. It took another hit on July 14, 1915, when a fire engulfed the car barn in Old Town, and 4 of the 6 streetcars were lost. The company was already in talks to be purchased, and the Albuquerque Traction Company was bought out by the City Electric Company on October 1, 1915. The new company quickly purchased 3 more streetcars from the St. Louis Car Company to replace those that were lost in the fire. The new cars seated approximately 30 passengers, were nearly 27 feet long and over 8 feet wide. There was 1 entrance door, and a single driver could operate the car from either end. The streetcars ran night and day, and the lines went north and south from Bridge Boulevard to the Sawmill, and east and west from the rebuilt car barn in Old Town, eastward down Central Avenue to Yale Avenue, where the University of New Mexico was located. Camp Funston was located at the university, and the soldiers would clamber on board to ride the streetcars downtown, covering the cars from back to front. When men headed off to Europe to fight during World War I, women took over the helm of the streetcars. Albuquerque was one of the first communities in the nation to bring women on board as drivers of streetcars. They were known as motorettes. Women like Elsie Westerfield proudly served as public transportation workers, taking the tokens and giving change for passengers throughout their routes. The women wore uniforms of a coat and a skirt with leather boots and their token belts proudly fastened around their waist. They made 27 cents an hour, a good wage at the time. In 1918, there were 18 motorettes in Albuquerque. They would see the streetcar system through World War I, the flu epidemic, and into the 1920s. By the mid-1920s, the city of Albuquerque was becoming more reliant on automobile traffic, and they wanted to pave the streets. The city asked the City Electric Company to pay for the paving of 8 feet along the 6 miles of streetcar tracks through town. The costs of the paving caused the City Electric Company to go bankrupt. The streetcars were given up for a bus system, considered a more progressive mode of transportation. On December 31st, 1927, 24 motorettes drove the streetcars on their final day of service. However, the women were not considered for the position of driver of the new mass transit system in Albuquerque. Men were hired to drive the buses, and the motorettes found themselves out of a job. The end of the streetcar system was the end of an era that saw Albuquerque expand into residential neighborhoods, allowed women a chance to earn a good living as drivers of mass transportation, and connected a growing population to leisure and commercial interests in Old Town and New Town. Thank you for joining us for Picture This with the Albuquerque Museum. Join us next time for the story behind another photograph in the museum's collection.